The Supreme Court expected within the next couple of weeks to make a major ruling on health care, one that will obviously affect the election and will obviously affect both parties, actually. Jerry Seib is in D.C. to explain this one to us. Jerry, I thought it was very interesting reading your column. I really would have thought that this was really a kind of a one-way trade almost for the Democrats and the GOP, but it really isn't.
No, it's not, and I think the conventional wisdom is that if the court does what most people think it's going to do and strikes down the health care law in whole or at least in part, that's bad news for the Democrats. And surely it is. If the parties and the president's signature domestic issue gets invalidated because it's deemed unconstitutional, that can't be good news for the Democrats. So that's all true. But I think what's less noticed is that it also creates some complications for the Republicans. In particular, the Republican view of Obamacare is that it should be repealed and replaced. And so far, the party's been lucky that all the attention can be focused on its argument for repealing the law. As soon as that happens, if it happens at the end of this week or next week, then instantly the question becomes, well, what about that replace part? What does that mean? And Republicans are going to have to be ready with some answers to that question.
Right now, on the one hand, yes, they have to come up with their own plan, but let's say it gets struck down, as you said. What happens the next day? What kind of a health care plan does the nation have?
Well, it probably doesn't affect the real world all that much right away because most of the health care bill didn't go into effect until 2013 or 2014. But there are a couple of important places where that does have an effect, or could, depending on how the court frames its decision. And again, the Republicans are going to be in a spot on these. The most important one is that the most popular part of the Obama health care bill in many ways was the provision that said that insurance companies are required to allow parents to keep their kids on their policies until they're 26 years old. So kids who are still in school or just out of school looking for a job can stay on their parents' health insurance policy. That part is wildly popular, even while the underlying bill is not very popular. So the question is going to be, well, can we keep that part? There's going to be a similar question about the part of the law that says that insurance companies cannot deny people coverage because they have a pre-existing health care condition. Again, that's very popular. That's a very popular provision, even if the underlying bill is not. What are you going to do about that? Those are the kind of questions that are going to come up. As a footnote, some big insurance companies have done Republicans a favor in the last couple of weeks by saying that they're going to keep that provision in place that allows kids to stay on their parents' insurance policy until they're 26 years old, even if the law is overturned. Yeah.
Hey, Jerry, just a question for you in general. Is it unusual to have the Supreme Court looking at a case that is this critical to a presidential election just 4 or 5 months before the election itself?
It is unusual. I think normally the court does not like to be in this position in which it is delivering a verdict that could be read as a political verdict, not just a judicial decision. But in this case, I'm not sure the court had any choice. The law was passed, it was put into effect, the legal challenges came into the system. It would have been a political act not to hear the case this summer. So while normally, and particularly if it's a lower profile case, the court will sometimes find a way to not take the case until after an election or to find a way to delay the decision, I'm not sure it was really possible in this case. But it does reflect a kind of a situation that the court has traditionally found uncomfortable.